Hi, everybody. This is a podcast where real medical professionals discuss fake medical emergencies. That means that unless a man in a pretty floral bonnet just tried to end you, this podcast is not medical advice. If you need medical advice or medical care, please contact your doctor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackson Vane.
I'm Johnny Kolasinski. You might remember me from such podcasts as Hi Everybody, a bad veterinarian podcast.
It's so bad.
That joke is from one person in the audience. Hi, Liz.
That was horrible.
This is Hi Everybody, a bad medicine podcast. Every week we talk about what Hollywood gets right and wrong about medicine and how the body works. With us once again this week is Dr. Greg Winter.
Hi, everybody.
So we've got some big news. You can find out about it on our social media channels at Hi Everybody MD on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or, Jackson,
You can actually call us now and leave a message or text us at 530-DOCTORB. That's 530-362-8672. What did we agree on that extra B standing for now?
the B is for Bobcast.
Bobcast, yes. So you can call us there, give us ideas, let us know how we're doing, tell us we suck, whatever you want.
Tell us how badly you want to call in show.
Correct. I can't wait for the day we do a call-in show.
That's going to be fantastic, and I'm sick that day. So this week we are going to be talking about a film that is 20 years old this month.
Yeah, I feel real old about it now.
Yeah, this was this and Titanic were the two iconic films of my high school.
Oof. Which one is older?
Titanic.
By like a year. I think,
Yep.
Right?
Titanic was freshman year. This was junior year. We are watching The Matrix,
Yep.
the first one, the good one.
Let's not use that term so like flippantly.
It's still a great movie, and I'm going to stand by that. But the medicine in it,
The medicine and the science are pretty hot doo doo.
yeah.
I think Greg would probably agree with that.
I agree. This was, I don't know, it's kind of a slog from a medicine standpoint. It's like, everything you're doing doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it starts out with a bang with Trinity fighting people, and then she like does that little dive where she goes through the window and just comes out completely unscathed. I don't know what Matrix rules are, but if this is, I mean, at this point, we're still not sure that the Matrix is a computer simulation.
but non-safety glass window injuries are usually pretty horrific.
Yeah.
You don't just slide through that and spin around. It doesn't matter.
No, real glass is real crumbly and real sharp. So she should do a little more than just get like a tiny little cut on like her eyebrow.
Yeah,
I think that's
she
all
got
had.
she got the rock from Hobbs and Shaw cut. I went through a window, and we need to show some redness. The only thing that I've seen that I think did the window thing correctly is when Josh Lyman punches through a window in The West Wing.
I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh, it's the perfect show.
Pass.
I mean, they did it pretty well in Saw 2.
Okay,
Okay.
fair.
I mean,
fair.
they didn't actually do the window thing, but the jagged pieces with the arm. I mean,
Where she put her hand
Yeah.
through the trap
Yeah.
and then pulled down and kind of.
I never want to reference Saw 2 for anything.
The
For
ju-
any sort of correction.
the
I
juiciest
referenced Saw
movie.
2 as one of my favorite episodes of this podcast so far.
The juiciest episode that we ever talked about.
For those who are unfamiliar with The Matrix, A, what's your problem? And B, brief synopsis is we live in a simulation and we're being used as batteries by robots in the future.
That's really well summarized.
Yeah.
It's like I take notes.
Also, Neo is Jesus.
Also, Neo is Jesus. You
Yeah.
learn that in the second scene.
Right, you learn that later.
Yeah.
No, you literally
No.
in the second scene, he's called "You're my savior, my personal Jesus Christ" by the guy he sells somebody's credit card numbers to.
I did not make that connection until now. Just like how Tom...
I said it when we watched it yesterday.
Well, you also like looked up random trivia about this movie, how Neo is an anagram for the one, and
Neo is an anagram for one.
and Thomas A. Anderson. The A stands for anagram.
Yeah, the A stands for anagram.
These are very important IMDb facts that I can't wait to divulge.
Just remember, anyone can leave an IMDb fact.
Anyone can reference this podcast on IMDb.
Yeah.
We before we get into like plot by plot points,
Yeah.
Jackson, what do they say that the human body can do as a battery?
So later, I think like later on when they're trying to explain the whole plot point about how humans get enslaved, Morpheus says that, I'm trying to remember, that a body can create as much energy as a 120 volt battery or 25,000 BTUs of heat.
25,000 BTUs is enough energy to boil 25,000 cubic centimeters of water. Or raise it 1 degree.
Yeah. And then also, it's equal to 10 horsepower.
Okay.
Or 7.3 kilowatts.
What?
I actually looked all this up.
I was going to say, what is that analogous to something I could understand off the top of my head?
Like 6 or 7 PS4s.
For how long?
Like running off your body continuously.
Okay.
Or one lift scooter, I think, is a good analogy for it, because that has a little less than, I think it has about that much horsepower.
I think it's just an oversimplification. Like, yes, the body uses electrical signals. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can generate electricity, not like consciously, but that's how your body is doing stuff.
Yeah.
But you actually have to put energy into your body for it to generate stuff.
I thought of another analogy. It's like as much as a day at the Kentucky Derby. Just having all the horses attached into one running. That's how much energy you create in a day. One Kentucky Derby race. That is a lot of energy.
In actuality, though, how much energy do we produce?
You make 100 watts only. So that's enough to power...
Oh, that's way less.
Yeah, that's enough to power a light bulb.
An old light bulb.
Day.
A 1999 light bulb on a good day, which makes the Addams Family incredibly scientific.
Correct. Uncle Fester is actually more medically accurate than
because he could only power that kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
It was flickering on and
And
off.
if you want to know, do you guys have a guess on how much BTU-wise that turns into?
I Googled it already, so pass.
No idea.
So 200. 200 to 400. So slightly less than the 25,000 BTU.
It also feels like all the things that they mentioned are not analogous to one another.
Yeah, basically you have enough body temperature to slightly warm up your bath.
That makes sense.
Actually, that might be the most medically accurate term we've used.
It's like you know what? You and your bath will come close to the same temperature.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
What's going to win? The bath, like the ambient room temperature, or your body to warm up the water first?
Or to cool down the water first.
Your body is because you're in the water.
Fair. I don't know.
Everybody wins.
Yes.
Moving on back to
the movie.
The movie itself. That's the general premise of The Matrix, which is slightly flawed. I do want to make a quick note here and say that when they wrote the movie, the Wachowski sisters didn't want it to be batteries. They wanted people to be processing as CPUs, and people at Warner Brothers said, nobody gets that. Why not batteries?
It would have made more sense.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense now when people...
Also, it would have made more sense, too, with all of them being connected like that and with the electrical arcs going up the towers.
Yeah.
Because I think Greg might have mentioned it. The most efficient way to transmit energy is lightning.
Yeah. This is not an electrician's podcast.
No.
I would love to do just a 10-week series on everything scientifically wrong with The Matrix, though. So Phil Platt,
from
call
every
me.
discipline.
Yeah. We'll just invite a new specialist every day and just talk about how bad this movie is from scientific standpoints. Like story point wise.
From an entertainment standpoint, it's great.
It's great.
It was one of my
wonderful.
favorite movies in high school.
Yeah.
Like
it was the first thing
it.
I had on the second thing I had on DVD after What Dreams May Come.
Oof.
Which is very, very pretty.
At a sad house.
Yeah, that's a sad house.
Apparently we just don't like reality.
That's just not the way to go. But I guess when you kind of move on through the movie, Neo, after he's being told he's digital Jesus by people who...
He's not quite told he's digital Jesus yet.
By people who bought his software.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. They're his personal savior and all that stuff. He gets chased down by agents and they put him in an interrogation room.
Right, where we see, outside of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the first big appearance of Hugo Weaving.
Big role change for him on this one. But they put a bug in his belly button for tracking reasons, I believe.
Right, and this bug is it's fully palm size.
Correct. It's not a metaphorical bug. It's a literal bug.
Yeah.
I think they're using a nice visual literary device here. Like, they're putting the actual bug in him.
Yeah, and I think, visual-wise, I think it's funny how the bug entered his body. Because it entered through his belly button like Michael Jordan going through a golf hole on Space Jam.
Well, rendering was expensive. They already had that put together.
Also, your belly button is kind of just like scar tissue. It's probably the hardest place to get. Like, any other place on your body would probably be easier to get in.
Yeah, I mean, there are some surgeries where they do go through the belly button, but that's
is that for cosmetic reasons?
But that's
more mainly
to
hide new scar tissue.
Yeah, but they usually use it for like insufflation, where they blow up the abdomen so they can cut stuff. And sometimes they'll put a camera through that port
Can we
If they need a
step
different
back
view.
for the non-doctors in the room,
Yeah.
like me and the cat?
Okay.
And
Plenty of other people in this room right now.
it is the fullest room we've recorded in.
Fair.
Wait, let's talk about inflation for a second.
Yeah.
You inflate someone's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
In certain types of surgery where they're going laparoscopically, that's when they're using tiny tools and small incisions. In order to give themselves some space, they put in like a little probe and they fill that up with air. It's actually not air.
It's CO2, which is air.
That's the better answer. They fill it up with not oxygen. They fill it up with
Okay.
carbon dioxide so that you can't.
Yes,
like,
filling up with oxygen.
That's the thing I was trying to say.
You don't want to fill up the abdominal cavity with oxygen because they definitely use electricity to cauterize bleeding vessels.
And so
the spark-
oxygen...
Yeah, you don't want a tummy explosion.
Right.
It's frowned upon. So they usually fill it up with some kind of inert gas. That way they can see the organs and whatnot. And then once you're done with the surgery, I remember this in medical school, is they tell me to push on the belly just to release all the gas as much as possible. But they said, don't worry if you can't get most of it out. It'll be absorbed and they'll pass that gas later anyways.
I feel like we missed out on 5 seasons of Scrubs of just seeing this.
Just belly stuff.
Just belly stuff.
They don't talk about that on Scrubs because it's very highly technical.
And very highly awesome.
It is. But if we go back to this Matrix thing, when they put the bug in, you assume that it goes like way past like the skin and inside of your abdomen.
Right, like he's hanging out actually in your stomach or something like that.
And when they actually go and try to take it out,
Using a weird scanner that's kind of ultrasound, kind of...
And we were kind of talking about this. Is this ultrasound or is this fluoroscopy, which is just a live x-ray? And it's hard to say because the picture's not very clear. I can't tell if that's a bug. I should take it back. You can definitely tell that there's a bug in there. You can't tell what the hell everything else is.
You can tell there's a bug, and you can tell that it's inside some part of your body, but you can't really see anything else. It's like almost a drawing that looks like small intestine, but not really, but there's definitely no organs. It's just like, it's very nondescript, non-specific.
All right, so we actually have an audience here while we're recording today.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something. First, introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Navpaul Singh, and a big fan of The Matrix and a big fan of this podcast. What I wanted to say was just a couple clarifications, that going into the belly button may not be the worst thing because scar tissue is type 3 collagen, which is actually weaker than type 1 collagen, which is what our skin is made out of, so it might be easier. Second of all, yeah, this bug is located definitely subcutaneously because...
So what does that mean?
Which means that it's right underneath the skin. And the reason that we know this is because they say that the bug is moving and you can see it moving underneath his skin.
So you can see it moving under his skin, but you don't see organs and stuff being moved above and below it.
Right. So if it was something that was in the organs, that would be intraperitoneal, which is much deeper and would not be visible.
But also, I would say, too, that it's not just skin. It's skin, muscle, and then organs, too.
Exactly.
So it depends which layer he's in this.
It's very nondescript.
Yeah.
The bug is definitely somewhere.
Yeah. But then they suck him out.
Yeah, and they suck them out. And the amount of force that it would be required to take that bug out is much more than a little machine that they have.
Would it come out so cleanly out of the belly?
Yeah, it comes out so cleanly because there's
Yeah.
there's no injury that we see on the body. We just see a little bit of like red jello.
Yeah. But it's like mega liposuction, I guess, if you think of it that way too. Except just targeted into the tiniest little opening, which is his belly button. And the other thing is, if the bug was in his like abdominal cavity, it would probably latch onto like some intestines. There'd be more poop. I know I complain there's not enough blood on like our
but
podcast
for once, not enough poop.
Not enough poop.
And the other thing is it just sucks it straight through the skin, and you need some sort of incision. Your skin is a pretty good barrier for just random stuff that's happening. That's how we keep all of our insides inside of us.
Yeah.
And you got to do something to break it. It's like when we've talked about before those air pressure injectors.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to have tons of force, and if you're sucking something out of there, it's like that would be even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Theory, the machine just has a cheat code and has clipping turned off.
I used to play Doom 2 all the time, and that's how I...
ID no clip?
Yeah, ID no clip, and I walked through walls nonstop, and that's how I found that one boss where it was just his head.
Yep,
and you shoot him and he cries.
John Romero's head.
Yep. Good, all the time.
I did not know that.
You did not know about the ID no clip code? That's how I cheated the video game. So much going
Doom
on.
gives me vertigo. I'm good with most other ones, but Doom.
What
for
about
some
Portal?
reason. No, that one does too.
No,
I can watch Portal videos.
Portal gives my wife vertigo too.
Portal makes you pookies?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good way to go. So where should we move from here?
Well, from there, the next big scene that we get is seeing the farms themselves.
No. What? Oh, can we go back?
Oh, yeah,
second?
I'm sorry.
When he learns about the Matrix,
Mhm.
and they're about to go into the real world again.
Oh, right. Right before that, we
So
see...
he takes the pill,
Oh yeah.
the blue pill or the red pill, and he takes the red pill and learns about how the real world's not real, or the Matrix is not the real world, and he needs to go to the real world.
Mhm.
So they set him up with a bunch of monitors, like cardiac monitors. Why is there a sticker on his neck?
Just your pulse. They just want your pulse.
Oh, okay. But they had a sticker on his neck, I think one on his forearm.
And one, like, right on the back of his
head.
neck.
Yeah.
Like, right where the port would be.
Yeah, so they're measuring all that.
So maybe this is some kind of medical technology that's only known in the Matrix, because it's definitely not known in our world.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or maybe it's bad.
Yeah, which is more likely the thing, because they have him in that. He touches the goop. He turns into Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
And then...
it is the height of 1999 CGI.
It did not
They
age
went
well.
from Terminator 2,
Mhm.
making people liquefied people into humans.
I mean, to be fair,
The
they liquefy
exact same
people
graphics 5 years later.
But
It holds up in T2 though.
it
It
does,
does.
but not at all in this. Everyone looks way too shiny, and
Right.
it just looks really off. But then they say they go on. He goes into fibrillation, and they show his heart rate monitor, which just looks like a 5-year-old who took a crayon to a paper and just scribbled up and down.
It does look like VFib though.
It's too sharp to be VFib, though.
Yeah, VFib wouldn't be that sharp.
The angles are too sharp.
I guess.
Yeah.
ER doctors, they do know what they're talking about.
It looks like there was an earthquake that happened, and it looks just like a seismograph kind of thing, just kind of that kind of shaking. It doesn't quite look real enough. But then he goes into arrest, and then he finally ends up in the real world.
Right. He ends up in the real world, and he's got like 34 different ports on him. He's got a port in both of his nipples. Those are obviously priorities.
Wait.
No.
No. They were not. They were above his.
Oh, they were
nipples.
above his nipples.
He clearly still had nipples.
You can see he had nipples.
Yeah.
I think they were on his nipples in one shot and not on his nipples in another.
Oh, really?
Possibly.
It's to migrate
Somebody, hi everybody podcast @gmail.com. Tell me I'm wrong.
How many nipples.com.
Yeah. Greg will have this booked before the episode is live. But so he's got ports going like in the back of his head, like we talked about, one on each arm,
all down his spine.
every spot on his spinal column.
Yeah.
Are those? What would the use of all of those different?
It seems really weird, and like clearly this is some fictional future technology, but you need an input and an output basically, and you can do both. You can do your breathing input through your nose or mouth, and you can do the food input either through veins or your mouth also, and then you just have your output down below.
To be fair, he had like Matrix style underwear on, so I don't know where the output comes out.
It's true,
But they definitely covered his modesty.
The future is very, very modest.
Robots are okay with looking at you naked, just not completely.
They're
naked.
okay with nipples. They're just
no ding dings.
They didn't want that MA-17
exactly
rating. They wanted to be able to sell the game at Walmart.
It just it doesn't make any sense because there's really nothing you're getting in or out of the body from any of those other spots on his body. You could make the case that maybe it's a more efficient way to collect electricity, but more wires, more resistance as well. Not a physics podcast.
Not a physics podcast. And I can't think of any reason, with my years of experience as a podcast host, I can't think of any reason that to render the Matrix better, you would need to tap into the bottom of someone's spine.
Yeah. That's where the knowledge comes from.
All of it, like from right above our coccyx?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, why was it tubes?
The knowledge hole.
The knowledge hole is right above your butthole. That's why in the Human Centipede, their mouth was so high above their butthole.
They were casting knowledge
right at the
and
knowledge
not
hole.
See, and
Oh
now
my-
we've come full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
full sequence.
I can't wait. Oh, God. I can't wait for you to ask a stupid question at the end of it. The other thing I kind of made note of was, why was the tube in his throat so large?
Yeah, that.
I don't know if that's a feeding tube or a breathing tube.
So you probably understand better because you have done intubations, and I've only done that in training. But you know, if you're gonna put a tube down someone's throat so that they can breathe easier, there's a certain depth you go down. Because if you go too far, then you end up
down
one side of.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that thing is like super thick, like very thick. So I don't know. That would definitely not go down your throat very well. It'll probably just blast open your vocal cords, and those vocal cords will never open or close again.
Which we see him talk later. So.
Yeah, so we know that's not the case. He should also have a raspier voice if he did get tubed.
It'd be great if all of the real world scenes were just everybody whispering
Yeah.
like this.
Because that's essentially
That would be much more realistic.
Have you ever had tasty wheat?
Yeah. Also, the other thing is, if he did have that tube down his throat, and let's say it went past his like esophageal sphincter that kind of closes off between your esophagus and your stomach, if it's been like kept open for that long, everything he eats will just reflux over and over again. So his vomiting scene when he got like stressed out
Would be like daily.
Yeah.
And also, everyone would look very uncomfortable after eating.
Yeah. If he lied down flat at any point, he'd just be clutching his chest like, oh God, heartburn, the whole time.
That's why Matrix Revolution was sponsored by Pepsi AC.
So I don't know why the tube was so big, but that was a very like disturbing kind of thing that I saw in there. And like you'll see the babies that are grown in the fields, they all had the tube in already with the nostrils, and that was kind of a point of discussion that I'm still not sure yet is, were these kids genetically born with holes already or ports in their neck, or did someone else put them in afterwards?
In Jackson's notes, he literally has debate! Exclamation point.
Genetic born with port or implanted after.
Things that are not organic do not grow on their own.
Correct.
There's got to be some changing in and out. Maybe it's like your
But that's
shower
so
head where you
highly
can unscrew and you can re-screw in a new thing. I mean, the Borg makes it work. They
So,
make it work.
So if they did have something that could be screwed on or off, why did the people who were born naturally, quote unquote, in Zion have no ports at all?
Because they were born naturally
you
and didn't
just
have that
answered
surgically
But I'm wondering-
done
but-
in vitro.
But those are all people that were grown already, right? Like, was that part of their genetic code? Like, eventually,
No,
they
that's.
set
I'm
them
saying
up?
that it can't. It's not part of your genetic code to have something that is not organic.
But they're grown.
They were grown,
Right.
and as they were being grown in vitro,
You know what? I'm going to cross out debate. There's no reason for debate. Clearly, those
So
are
if they
added
were-
after the babies are born.
So when they're on the tree, someone goes in and goes,
Yeah, those little
That's
spider
what those little
robots.
spiders are there.
and that's I think what we were talking about with spider ports.
Yeah.
But then you would have to say that each of these ports would be changed as the individual
Yeah.
grows.
And I think they can.
Yeah.
Why?
And-
I mean,
and
they're
sure,
So
they
you lost your
can.
baby ports.
But
They're-
then
Yeah, you lose your baby ports.
No, but the people that are born in Zion, no one ever puts ports in them, so that's why they don't.
So
have
they never
ports.
lost their baby ports.
No, no, they still have their wisdom ports.
They get a
Okay.
they get a port later when they're ready to jack into the Matrix.
But what I would say is that my argument would be that these robots are not that smart, are they? Because if they're wasting efficiency and time and parts to give new ports to baby ports and then adult ports.
When they could like genetically engineer
Yeah.
people
they could
to just have.
I mean, this
Create
is just a bad
cyber.
like hearing what the Wachowskis wanted to do originally makes so much more sense
Yeah.
because humans are an inefficient battery, so it just like makes it all ridiculous
Excuse me.
anyway.
That's
Yeah.
25,000 BTUs of energy you're talking about.
That's
here.
that's a lot of energy.
That's a lot of energy. But I think the most important port that they had was in the back of their neck,
right.
which jacks them into the
I mean, and in
Matrix.
truth, that's the only one that matters,
Yeah.
right? Because once they're out, that's the only port that they get put in.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's.
That's a bad place to put it.
I agree.
I mean, it's not. Who knows what you have to do to have the Matrix work?
Mhm.
It's just that's a real important place to put it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's kind of the base of your brain, your brainstem. It controls a lot of your body's just kind of functions that make it work automatically, like the things that you aren't normally thinking about. And just like instrumenting that over and over again, it's sort of a recipe for just killing yourself.
Disaster.
Yeah. The brainstem is where it's basically what keeps you alive. So your breathing, your pulse, and all that stuff. So having something that just stabs straight through it repeatedly over and over again just is a bad idea. In the ER, that's one of those things that if you the brainstem, if it gets sucked through the hole at the base of your skull, you're pretty much dead.
Because it's what does all of your autonomous responses.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things where we talk about brainstem herniation a lot. Have you guys ever experienced anything like you have?
What
Yeah.
you mean, like? No, I mean me personally, no.
Not
But I have seen patients who have herniated a few times. Yeah.
From what?
Gunshot wounds, so their brain
Sure.
swells a lot. You'll have patients that have a bleed
Oh, I want
that's expanding their head, so it's a closed system, so the pressure has to release somehow.
Right.
And if there's no crack or hole on the top of your head, it all pushes down into that, what we call the foramen magnum.
You've talked about before that trepanation is still a thing.
Yeah, they still do, like burr holes.
No,
Yeah.
burr holes.
Yeah. So neurosurgery will actually go in with a drill and just go, and just make a hole so that pressure can release.
Or even ER docs. I've
Yeah.
done a burr hole.
I have not yet, I'm a kid.
I hope you never have to.
Yeah. It's like a scary situation.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
that's one of those things, like, we'll look at scans of their head, and it's a very pediatric thing to say, but if I don't see a happy face pattern, then we know we're in a bad situation, because the happy face tells me there's still open spaces, and the kid's going to be okay. But the minute the happy face is gone, I'm
From
like,
the
From the
like
swelling.
the folds in the brain swelling.
Well, the
Kind of.
ventricles.
the ventricles, which
Okay.
is like a space in the middle of the brain. Once the spaces kind of collapse or are very constricted, then I know there's no room for the brain to swell anymore. So it's a scary thing to see, but that's when we talk about the brainstem being very important to keeping you alive. Seeing a very long rod that gets put in to the point where it probably would reach the front of your brain.
We're once again on Uma Thurman moments of this needle is longer than the person.
Correct. Yes.
Exactly.
And this needle is definitely longer than everyone's skull in this movie.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. Every time it goes like, oh, it's gonna come out the front.
Yeah. It's gonna watch it like they put it in. There's nothing to guide it to go straight.
At the
So
very
what-
least, you expect his eyes to cross a little.
That's what I'm waiting for.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh.
Or one eyeball to just accidentally boop,
Hey,
just pop right out. Sorry. Can we talk about how everyone is maintained with energy in the Matrix, like how they feed the bodies that are connected?
it's human centipede rules,
It is. It's
basically.
liquefied dead people.
Liquefied dead people that are fed to you intravenously.
Wouldn't the supply end at some point? Like you can't.
They'd
just-
also need corn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they need tasty wheat.
Tasty
Tasty
wheat.
wheat, yeah.
Can we describe what tasty wheat is?
Tasty wheat is, well, it is described as looking and tasting like snot, but it is described
It looks like
technically.
oatmeal.
It looks like oatmeal with corn in it.
With corn in it, yeah.
Technically, what is it though?
It's a single-celled protein made with synthetic vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
Give the audience a second to facepalm, and then say why everything about that is wrong.
I mean, it's just using things that don't agree with it, like
Like a
proteins
single
aren't-
cell protein.
Right, proteins aren't
Cells.
single cells. They're not cells.
They're-
Proteins
They're
are
protein.
low,
They're proteins.
proteins are contained in cells.
Yeah.
Correct.
As are amino acids.
Yes.
As are all the other things that they bring up.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are very correct.
And proteins are made of amino acids.
So
Okay.
think of a cell as a balloon, and inside the balloon there's little Legos, and those Legos would be proteins.
And the thing that makes the proteins are amino acids.
Okay.
Yeah.
And vitamins are their own thing,
Correct.
much like David S. Pumpkins. I kind of killed the metaphor there.
Yeah, that one fell flat on its face. That's a good one. Keep it.
Let's say it's kind of like Billy Zane. You should always trust your friend Billy Zane.
All right.
He's a cool guy.
Proteins are a cool guy.
Hey, vitamins are cool guys.
And then, as the movie moves on, Neo gets his training. He
He gets all sorts of information uploaded
correct.
through Kazaa, because it's 1999.
Or Morpheus.
Or Morpheus.
Or Morpheus. This is very fitting of a file sharing service to use with this one. After everyone learns how to do stuff, Neo gets tested by Morpheus on all of his activities, and after the training, he wakes up and he wonders why he's so sore and why he has blood coming out of his mouth. And it all comes down to the basic rule that if you get hurt in the Matrix, you get hurt or die in real life. Because the brain is so strong, it makes things real.
This is a thing that in entertainment is often like provided as sort of 100% the truth and accepted, and it's just not true. Yes, your brain is really powerful, and your brain tells your body how to experience things, but your brain can't like cause.
My brain's not going to break my rib.
Right.
Your brain's not going to cause gunshot wounds that open through your skin,
Right.
Or cause internal bleeding.
The idea that if you die in the Matrix, you're brain dead, conceivable, fits within the world of the universe. The idea that you're going to start...
I thought we ended up in limbo when we die in a dream.
That's Christopher Nolan. He hasn't even made Memento yet.
Okay.
Give it time.
Okay.
The idea that your brain is actively causing physical wounds to manifest is more along the lines of stigmata.
Yeah.
It can cause pain because pain is your reaction to any kind of stressor, be it a noxious stimuli like something painful, or it could be emotional. Like as an ER doctor, you'll see a lot of patients that come in with chronic abdominal pain, and sometimes we can't find the source of it, but stress can definitely manifest with pain.
For sure.
It is a thing that happens. Like, we're not saying the pain is fake, but we are saying that the pain can be caused by something that is not physical manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're a pediatric ER doc, you, I'm sure, have seen that many times because a lot of children will present with abdominal pain when the setting of the social situation.
Exactly. Yeah, and the way I kind of explain it, and it's the dumbest way I've ever explained it, and it works, though, is the term going with... You know when you say... think with your gut or going with your gut feeling. When you think too hard with your gut, it starts hurting a lot. And you're thinking way too hard with your gut. We need to figure out how to make your gut not think so hard anymore. And
so
usually,
cheaty, 100% medically accurate.
Correct. So that's why I try to tell families, like, you know, this is one of the situations where there's nothing physically wrong with the stomach or the intestines, but there's so much stress that it's overwhelming and it's leaking out of your brain and now affecting other parts of your body. And as silly as that explanation is, it kind of makes sense, though, because if you had a divorce in the family or you saw someone get killed or hurt really badly, your brain can't fully process it. So it's basically offloading that emotional stress to other parts of the body to process that same amount of stress. And usually that's one way I can convince certain families once we reached a dead end in their workup to actually get counseling.
And we came up with a really good analogy to this earlier when we said... when you have a dream, and in your dream you die, do you die?
No.
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 You don't.
You end up in limbo.
You end up in limbo.
I know this. I've watched many movies about
You
it.
end up in tummy limbo.
In tummy limbo is where you end up. With all that stress, that's where you end up. Tummy limbo.
The reason why I sort of stop mid-sentence is because I have seen people who have had, like, I've seen skin changes based on people's, like, just brain angst. And that is a physical change in your body, and it's whatever. None of that matters.
But it's not to the extent of bullet
It's
wounds
not,
and broken
right.
ribs.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for what you said.
Right, your brain is really, really powerful. Like,
Yeah.
it controls everything about the world that you experience.
Yeah.
So it can certainly affect you in a lot of ways. It's just, if you die in your dreams, you don't die.
You don't die.
I'm looking through my notes and I wrote something really stupid, but I kind of want to talk about it. Is if everyone is grown, why does everyone look so different in the Matrix?
They might have just had a lot of different DNA to pull from.
That is very true. That is a great question.
I don't think I understand your question.
So, like, everyone...
There should be very close similarities to other individuals if they're all grown from the same line of chromosomes.
Right.
Oh, I was thinking grown as in adults.
No, what I meant is, like, they're grown in a field, so they all share relatively the same DNA kind of thing. So why does everyone look so different in the Matrix?
My fan theory is that there are, like, 55 different servers, and it's like playing Ultima Online, and...
But again,
so 55 different people,
the computers wouldn't care, would they? They wouldn't care if people look the same or different.
Yeah.
So why would they waste their time on creating diversity?
Well, maybe the rendering renders the diversity, and the people all do look like Keanu Reeves.
Like
you only see him get pulled
Keanu
out.
Reeves.
But he's not the only one that got pulled out because the rest
But
of the
you
crew...
only see him get pulled. Maybe they can only pull out one person from each server farm, because otherwise...
So there has to be genetic diversity amongst farms.
Exactly.
Go to each plantation of people and just pull them in. Okay.
Just pull one.
Yeah.
That's the one from every server.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, my mind just exploded. He's the one from that server X25, whatever number it is.
NEO.
NEO.
Yeah. NE0. N30. Whoa.
Oh god. There's one movie trope that we've been seeing a lot too is if you had internal bleeding, you get blood from the mouth.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a couple times, but...
This happened quite a few times in this one, where it correlates with the previous discussion we had was, can your brain be so strong that you get internal bleeding? I mean, the only thing that's close to it...
You can give yourself an ulcer.
That's the only thing I can think of that's close to it, is getting a stress ulcer.
If you gave yourself an ulcer and you bled from your ulcer, you would throw up or vomit blood.
So maybe when Mouse got shot 88 times,
He
he
had
gave
to-
themselves 88 ulcers.
And just started coughing up blood nonstop from that. And that's what did him in. Usually...
But that would be vomiting blood. It wouldn't be the same as coughing. In which case, Mouse coughed.
Yeah.
So that would be more associated with a lung bleed.
Yeah, because it would be a frothier bleed. Which
Yeah.
kind of fits in. Look, I always say there should be more blood, but now let's make sure we get the right blood in it. So,
The right frothiness.
lung blood, frothy. Stomach blood, at least if it's like in your actual stomach, if the blood hits the acid, you get coffee ground blood.
Like,
You know?
and bilious, possibly?
That depends. It could be bilious, but that's like if you're affecting something around your liver area more than anything.
And it would be bilious if it went down below the ligament of Trites. So
We're getting real technical on this one. But that would be the thing. So I don't think there's any way you can get that kind of mental stress to the point where you're coughing up blood like that. I mean, it'll be fun.
That ulcer example is a really good example of your brain is a real powerful.
Yeah. So he did get...
It takes lots of time, though.
Yeah, he got 88 stress ulcers from just being shot that many times.
and we know that ulcers take time to form.
Yes. And then, why do people die when the plug is pulled?
That's the big question is, so Cypher, who is basically me with a goatee, is going through the Nebuchadnezzar, which is the ship in in the real world, unplugging everybody in order of importance to the plot. And
No, reverse order.
reverse order of importance to the plot. And as he unplugs them, they die both in the Matrix and in real life.
Yeah.
Much like in the real world, in our world, when you wake up from a dream, you die.
Mm-hmm. I was going to use the example of when I use my laptop and it gets disconnected from the internet, my laptop explodes. Because that's essentially what they're saying is that something that was working, connected to a network, once disconnected from the network, no longer works.
Right. It's not like I'm playing Ultima Online because it's 1999 and my mom picks up the phone and my character dies. It's my mom picks up the phone and the house explodes.
Yeah.
My mom catches fire.
And while they're plugged into the Matrix, they're not on any other life support stuff. Like they're not on a breathing machine. They don't have an IV. I think one time Neo does have an IV, but basically it doesn't seem like being into the Matrix really is taxing your physical body. I guess in the right set of circumstances.
They're monitoring his vital signs all the time. There's a
You can
picture of
tell
his
because
heart.
there's a video of his heart.
Right, but they're just kind of measuring how fast his heart is beating. There's no other actual information up there.
Yeah.
And the only information that we ever get from it is when his heart stops. And
Yeah.
it just
They had
is
an
still
EEG
pictured.
going too. I know because it was labeled EEG.
The other thing is if you're taking out that big needle and you're just not being careful, you could maybe do some damage there. But it looks like he kind of just pulls it straight out. So to me, there's no reason why that should kill you.
That should wake you up so you can beat up Cypher.
You might just be upset because your whole reality just changed, but you've done it a few times.
You've done it daily every time you dreamed.
Yes.
Dreamt.
This is not a grammar podcast. We'll just talk about one more scene, and it's
Yeah.
at the end.
We got two more scenes to
Two
discuss.
more scenes?
So
Oh.
first, at the end, let's talk about Neo, who dies in the Matrix.
Okay.
And then dies in the real world.
Uh-huh.
and then comes back to life.
Yes. So he got shot a bunch of times. He's the only one who got shot a bunch of times and did not cough up blood.
That's correct.
And he got shot in his chest, so if anyone was going to cough up blood,
It would have been him.
probably him.
He's the guy with the frothy blood that should have been coughing up, but he didn't.
I will say that in The Matrix, I feel like him getting shot a bunch of times had enough blood.
Yeah.
When we saw all that blood on the wall as he slid down to his death, or to his being dead.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But there was none in the real world.
There was none in the real world, though.
And there shouldn't have been. His brain cannot create bullet holes through his body.
The Matrix, exactly enough blood.
Yes. Just for that one part, yes. But then they show his heart stop,
And then
they actually show him flatline.
and then they turn off the monitor on his
And
heart.
Yeah. And
Stop
then-
monitoring his heart for some
Like,
reason.
oh, he's dead. Turn it off. But they didn't. They didn't try to shock him or anything like that. No one got shocked. Oh, sorry. I take it back. A lot of people got shocked, but not to bring him back to life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about it a little bit beforehand, but just because your heart is not pumping blood doesn't mean your brain no longer has electrical impulses going through it. So, like, to be pronounced dead, you have to have a specific set of like a specific exam that actually tells someone that you're dead, and that is what the definition of brain death is. They don't go through any of that in this.
Because his eyes are closed the whole time.
His eyes are closed and his heart is stopped. I mean, normally if this was a hospital setting, and somebody had a resuscitate order for themselves, then people would come rushing in, they'd be giving drugs, they'd be pushing on his chest, they'd be breathing in his lungs to try to restart his circulation. I mean, this is all for artistic license. None of that happens here.
Alternatively, can a girl who has a crush on you on the internet sit on you and kiss you?
Was that her CPR?
That was her
Sitting on
CPR.
Yeah, I thought that was what we had talked about. That was her breathing into him life.
But that's how he came back to life. And the question is, like, I think my only weird thing about it was, can he be so cognizant enough to just go like, oh yeah, this is all fake, and now I'm alive again?
That's the conceit of the whole movie. Like, realizing that none of that is actually there. It's all in his mind, so you can do whatever you want.
Or the other thing, as Greg said, is that they really shoehorned in that love story.
Yeah. So the real power of the One,
Mhm.
which is the nanogram for Neo, is to say, wait, this is bullshit.
Right.
Correct.
That is exactly what it is.
So it's just being a sarcastic bastard. Is this whole thing?
Oh,
Just not trusting
no
any
wonder the
cynical-
internet loves this
beginning of
movie.
internet troll.
Yeah, Neo, the original troll of all of it, doesn't believe anything he sees on the internet.
There's one important scene that we didn't cover
Okay.
that we talked about a lot before recording, which is Neo's surgery as he moves from being one of the bodies in the battery farm to, on the Nebuchadnezzar, a real person, where they are rebuilding his atrophied muscles. Jackson, why did you have a problem with this?
Because he didn't really use any of his muscles, so it's really hard to rebuild it. I think what I called him, he's like Veal.
Yeah.
He's in a confined cage, has never moved in his life, and now they're trying to rebuild it. He has tender, soft muscles. Neo is Veal in this situation. There's no way they can regenerate it by putting a bunch of, at least 1,000 needles into his body and try to shock it.
Semi-acupuncture, semi-pinhead.
Yeah.
Looks like some sort of electric stimulation machine.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. If he was really atrophied, how did he bust through the top of it, right?
That's the bigger
He's
question.
never used those muscles before. There's
Never.
no way that he can move those muscles.
He wouldn't be able to move, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the opening scene of that whole part was he would just lie there and just kind of wiggle like a worm for a second and go, well, I can't move anymore.
This
And then-
sucks.
Yeah, and then the robot would come in, take the thing out of his head, drop him in the water, and he would just sink to the
And
bottom.
he would drown.
Yeah.
But then we wouldn't have had the Messiah moment of him
Correct.
rising out of the ooze.
The only muscles that he was probably using are his cardiac muscles and his diaphragm. That's probably the only muscles he used.
Not even his lungs? Well, not his lungs because he was in a pool of water.
The diaphragm would be the thing that controls
Okay.
it, because
Yeah.
your lungs don't have muscle. Your diaphragm's the thing that actually generates the inspiratory
But
force.
that's a good point, is that if he had these tubes going out into his stomach and whatnot, if he was receiving oxygen intravenously or however, then he wouldn't be required to use the diaphragm, in which case he wouldn't even be breathing.
Yeah, the first thing you would do is be coughing up a bunch of gross gel. That's the first thing that would happen. After someone lifted his head out of the ooze, you would cough up a bunch of this gross gel, and then maybe they would save him.
Yeah. Also, what was that water that he fell into?
I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just...
Water...
No, this wouldn't even make sense. I was going to say...
Was that the toilet?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a sewer system.
You guys have seen claw machines before. There's always water at the bottom.
I was thinking, well, maybe that's what they use for coolant, but that doesn't make sense if they're using them as heat.
Yeah.
Unless that's where the heat is all... But then they'd already be in water.
It would make more sense if it was coolant if this was a CPU.
Right. But thanks, Warner Brothers.
Is that
I blame Joel Silver.
I mean, is that toilet where they liquefy people and refeed it back to people?
Could be.
That could be.
It would be bad that he landed in it then.
Yeah.
Probably.
Stinky toilet water.
Well,
ground up person water.
Persons there, yeah.
Yeah. Which then begs the question, where's the blade?
It's at the bottom.
It's a giant people blender.
It just renders you down into a single cell protein.
That's where Tasty Wheat comes from. Tasty Wheatest people is essentially where we're ending this thing.
All right.
Okay.
If that's where we're ending this thing, then I have an important question.
No. I don't know how to answer it.
The human centipede bills itself as 100% medically accurate. If that's true, how medically accurate is The Matrix, Dr. Greg Winter?
I mean, I gotta give it artistic license for dealing with stuff in the future, so maybe things are gonna be slightly different in one way or another. I gotta give it leeway about stimulating muscles, like, maybe.
Yeah.
But in general,
It's a tough
trying to figure this out has made me more and more cynical from week to week.
It's a toughie.
There isn't a lot of medicine in here.
No,
There's just a lot of ridiculous stuff that they gloss over. I don't know. Let's say 35%.
Oh, you're much
That
more
is too
cynical.
much.
What? I was gonna say 50.
What the hell is going on?
We're playing the science of the future game kind of situation. Fine. Because compared to some of the other movies we've talked about, like I've graded some pretty harshly. I think Hobbs and Shaw actually gave a surprisingly higher score.
Hobbs and Shaw got like a 70.
Yeah. I think 50,
See,
40,
I
50.
agreed with your guys' statement about the human centipede.
Well, the human centipede
I listened
bills
to that
itself.
whole podcast,
Yeah.
and I thought it was done fairly well. This, however, I mean, was not. For me, I would probably give it a 9.5%.
No.
That might be our
What?
lowest grade.
That's our lowest grade so far.
Why the half?
Yeah.
Because 10's too high.
10's too high.
Because 10's too high.
Just did
10's
not.
too much. 9 is probably a little low.
So just
So
cut the difference.
Jackson?
Oh, I said like 40 to 50.
40 to 50.
Now I feel really bad about it, but I'm sticking with my guns, so whatever.
All right. And so if you're going to rewrite The Matrix, it's 1999. We're still using CRT monitors. Keeping that in
I mean,
mind.
things have changed a lot.
Yeah. His
The future is the
17
past.
monitors seem so high tech now and seems like a normal workstation. But how would you keep the stakes high while making the movie more medically accurate?
Okay, so the atrophied muscle kind of situation, we can start with that part. You can make it just as high stakes with him not being able to move super well or being very spindly and weak.
You could either add a line about how they exercise the bodies in their little tubs, or you find somebody who's just
really
skinny.
Like, do it like Captain America before he got the super serum.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? Pretty weak, couldn't do anything. And then they build him up through a musical montage of some sort with electrical activity, and that's the way they bulk him up.
Or if your body is reacting to things that happen to you in the Matrix, then you move a little bit
Right.
when you lift up a heavy box.
Yeah, they could have put him in like a hamster ball kind of situation. You know, having him run and, explore his space. That's one way. He'll never know that it's not real, but he still has the tactile stimuli that makes it look like it's real.
So Black Mirror 16 Million Merits combined with The Matrix.
Yes. I mean, that would be one way I would do it. The extracting the bug thing, I don't know how to fix that. That just...
I mean, it's just not realistic in the first place.
It's not realistic at all. And then they show the bug in the midst of his intestines. But you see it's subcutaneous underneath the skin, and yet...
Maybe he has prune belly.
I mean, maybe he's missing a peritoneal cavity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He might have prune belly. Prune belly means you don't have any abdominal muscles, so it's basically just skin, and then you can actually see the intestines underneath. That's why your stomach looks like a prune.
Oh.
So he could have prune belly, but those abs don't say prune belly.
Those abs are pretty solid. So,
there's not. It's hard.
I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, this movie didn't have a lot of accurate... I mean, this movie had a lot of possible future medicine, but not a lot of medicine that's accurate for right now.
Yeah.
Like, especially that, if you have a tube in someone's throat for more than about 2 weeks, you end up with some sort of damage to your vocal cords.
Yeah, that's when you end up with the trach, which is just
that's why they usually put one in after about
7 days.
Yeah.
7 days.
So Neo was in for what? 30
odd years.
Yeah, 32 years and 51 weeks and 14 days too long. Something like that. Yeah. No, not good.
And then also, grinding up animal parts and feeding them to that same animal, we've had some bad stuff happen from that in the real world. Like, that's where we got mad cow
like
disease,
non-single cell proteins.
Yeah.
So basically, this is like an unsustainable system. Probably something would go wrong much earlier.
You're gonna run out of the source.
A lot of work for batteries.
Yeah, and not even efficient batteries for that matter. So,
well, according to them,
very efficient.
But according to real life,
not efficient. No. Yeah.
So I assume that there's no way that you could reprogram humans to run it like 900 degrees.
It's not a bioengineering podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next week, on our 14-part series on What the Hell, The Matrix. Anything else we want to add on the good or bad? Well, was there good medicine in The Matrix? Anything you want to highlight
good medicine in The Matrix
of what they did right? I'm leaving in this entire pause.
I mean, is The Matrix entertaining?
Yes.
Do I really like this movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has it aged well?
No.
As I've learned more, I can nitpick at it differently.
Yeah. Way to go, podcast. Ruining movies I love.
That's what we're here for.
I can't think of what it really did well other than have very high stakes and create a digital world that I am afraid of in the future.
But it was quite entertaining. And the action scenes were phenomenal for the time.
Yeah.
So.
It introduced us to bullet time.
So
those are all really great things. Just don't watch it for the scientific explanations of random stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tune in next week, folks, as we probably ruin another movie that Jackson liked at one point in time.
Or a TV show.
Can't
just stick on just some movies.
If you're listening to this as it's released, happy Thanksgiving. If you're listening to this with your family, sorry, I said the S word earlier.
You did?
I did.
I honestly didn't hear it because I'm so used to all the swearing all the time.
And thanks for listening. You can find this podcast at Hi Everybody MD on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can search Hi Everybody a Bad Medicine Podcast on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, all the fun stuff.
If you want to help us record an intro, as you heard earlier in the episode,
you can find the script at hieverybody.libsyn.com and send it to us via an email at hieverybodypodcast@gmail.com.
All the information's on there and on all of our social media. Also, if you want to call us and annoy us or tell us how great we did.
Or even text us.
Which will come through to us, 530-DOCTORB.
The extra B is for Batrix.
God. That's 530-362-8672.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for being part of this conversation. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.